Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's really a joy to be here. And I do become conscious because the name is such, and then there's such a thing of self-indulging thoughts and gloating. And did not know where today, but I think the word is pretty good to feel that way. I hope you feel your joy in your life, and that's for that. I have 3 thoughts running in my head. I do not know which one's going to step forward. So, that being said, we'll share this conversation together. So my morning thought, as I was doing my little zoning out, putting the pen to the paper, the thought was, what if there was no alphabet? How did life happen in prehistoric times? And if there were no numbers, how did things were accountable? So, dear Google said, there were markings, and there were hieroglyphics in terms of prehistoric creatures drawn on a piece of paper, and the quantification came from the feeling of vastness or belonging. If it was more or less, that was the feeling. Numbers were still not existent. They could put the figures on the wall, but still would not know the number. And there are prehistoric findings that go as far as 20,000 BCE. So that satisfied my curiosity of like, what if we lost track of alphabet today? How are we going to communicate? Our words are still words, or this all becomes a jibber jabber, right? So that thought was running. And then I was trying to find why it was even occurring in my head, because I was having a little struggle with the thoughts that were coming in, and the struggle was not anything harmful or anything, but it was a struggle because the thought felt incomplete. Because my part is, I'm writing something down on a piece of paper. What if I did not have that alphabet or word? What would it come about? You know, if there was no ABC, and then again, if Z was the first alphabet, then what happened to A in the sequence? That sort of childish thought run through my head, but they're amusing enough for me to just keep enjoying the thought after the other. So, if things were arranged, if love was anger and anger was love, how would you understand it? Once again, that's a silly thought that was running, and I was just having my little moment to myself. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. We figured it out, what is what, and then we're so bound into it that sometimes we are losing our sense of what we feel with it. So, have you ever felt of the word love, and you also are chasing the feeling of frustration, anger, anxiety with it? That's another thought that keeps running, like, what's the undertone here? Why is something at play? Then the thought progressed, and then I was like, oh, well, you know, our principles, as we read, our principles talk about personal responsibility, and sometimes personal responsibility is to be accountable. But if we did not have mathematics and numbers in today's time, what would be the value of it? But the value, once again, becomes, did it make me feel less or more? It's a feeling place. And then as spiritualists and the philosophy and the science side of it, even the scientific study was followed after the thought has occurred. The spirit is here, and energy is there, I'm feeling something, but then you quantify with scientific evidence or creating the data behind it. So that part of that excitement, once again, follows after thought, right? So my best friend in today's time is the GPS. Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, whatever is the GPS, that's my best friend. Because I'm so easy to get lost between east and west and north and south. Sometimes I have no idea. I try to look at the sun, figure it out, but still I'm not sure which one goes where. Where I grew up, it was about take 2 streets down, make a right, then take 2 doors over, and there's the place. We didn't have no east and west, or I didn't grow up with it. So, what I feel I'm moving on from my initial morning thought was coming up here. I took my exit on 417, and then it says there we're going to bypass your route because there's a closure on the Bates Road. And I'm like, oh, a detour. That's the word we're going to talk about. That's the spiritual word for the detour. Who hasn't had a detour? Think about it. So as I was coming up, I know, my best friend's going to take me, whatever. I keep turning left and right. But what I enjoyed was, I've never seen these houses before. I've been coming here for so many years. I know my route, I know my track path. And sometimes I know I'm here. I left home and then I'm here. And I think you all have that feeling. If you worked at the same place, you go there by default. Your body knows the speed limit, the hands, foot pedal knows all that. So when the detour was happening, I was just tickled. Because God knows if I'm going to make it on time. I've had that before. But part of that enjoyment was, oh, I've never seen this street. And I don't remember this house ever before. And I was just weaving through the neighborhood over here. And then I said, oh, somebody trimmed their tree and it's still green. And I'm just enjoying the whole view. And then as I was coming to the main part of this subdivision here, I was like, oh, now this feels familiar. I know where these roads are going to take me. Isn't that interesting? If you think about your own life journey, inevitably we all have had detours. Things didn't go as planned is equal to detours. Things projected and wanted to be done and experienced didn't occur that way. Detour is there, right? Anybody has boarded a flight and waited for extra 2, 3, 4, 5 days to get to your destination? Detour. And absolutely, it's a part of life. But once again, if the alphabet D did not make the detour, what would it be? That was my chasing thought behind it. Like, what would we call this? I do not know. But that sort of playful curiosity has been part of my day. Spiritualism, if we are not at play, we're missing something. Our findings make it more serious. Our playfulness allows us to discover. And that's the whole part of the excitement, is sitting in a session, even standing up here sometimes, just playing along the whim, knowing where the compass is. But what about your detour? How do you manage your detour? I know some people that are pretty vocal about their detour. And their alphabets is from A to Z, anything in between. Their choice of words is so interesting. And I used to be fearful when my detour occurred in my past life, past years. Because if we just throw my game off, I'm not realizing how linear I was in those years, that everything has to just fall in place. In our educational system, you really don't get a gainful employment unless you pass your college studies. In between is, unless you're a self-preneur, entrepreneur, you can do anything with it. But if you can't have a gainful employment unless you finish a formalized advanced education. If there's a detour in it, financially, circumstantially, etc., it throws you off the game. So, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. That was yesterday. But then who says today's not a Valentine's Day? Did you stop loving that person? And I said this, I was here at Thanksgiving, that's a reminder. I said the Thanksgiving a few days later. But did you have a detour in your plans yesterday? Did everything fall in place? Is there? Did the reciprocation met your expectation? Because that's another part of the detour is, everything is moving fine, but there's a little feeling or lull of this is not exactly where I wanted to be. That's a detour in your feeling process. There's nothing much different. But detour by itself is a discovery in a different way. And I really had to learn that from my own way, guided by Spirit. Pay attention, what's going on, where you are, what you're processing, that I could find myself happy. And I say this with compassion, my detours are no different than your detours. I'm not special here, and neither are you. But at the same point, we're all living the same precepts of spirit, soul, and physicality of life. It's bound to happen. Some of your health challenges, some of my health challenges, have really put a damper on the progression of life per se. Things didn't span out that way because the body took its own turn, the cells took its own turn, and here we are talking about it. But anything could be a wonderful conversation point from my precept. So the detour, discovery, everything is all starting with a D, and then there's a lot of ABCD that is coming along with it. Now let me bring that aspect. This delicacy of remembering the memories of the years past once again has a moment of its own. if they're happy memories, if they're joyful memories, it elevates us, right? But not everybody has that. Somebody have painful memories, sad memories, incomplete memories. Some of us have such strong compartmentalization that we don't even remember the memories that we have. And once again, a part of my discovery within my own journey has been, just through the blessing and grace of spirit and soul, I had no idea I remembered that. I'm pretty sure we all have that somewhere, some way, shape, or form. Things show up at the most unkind or unpredictable time, and then we have to work through it. So these detours are enjoyable. If you feel your detour is challenging, your job is how to make it enjoyable. I feel that's where it should start, because it's going to change the whole dynamic of it. I hope you're enjoying this play on words. Everything is coming around with the word D in this detoured conversation, because just that's where thought is. So anything that feels deprived, damaging, destitute, dissatisfied, what is the ingredient, what is the mix that will change? What will change it? I feel self-inspection, self-inquiry, going within will provide you that little spirit or the root that can really bear a wonderful fruit while you work on those things. So take that detour that takes you on a deep dive and enjoy that discovery, because like the other discovery, there's other potential discoveries await you. How do you want to discern the development of your soul? And these detours are stimulating, they're the drivers of possibilities of expansion. What are we doing with that? Each session that I have leaves me in awe, because one, I have no idea what's going to go on. Secondarily, I learned they're teaching through their journeys on the other side that allows me to investigate and develop that thought process. This is how one potential is, because there are so many potentials, and always the unlimited aspect of it is always there. Now my aha over the last few months is, I'm walking away in some version of absolution. I sometimes like to be fixated in an idea. But I'm also walking away from a certain sense of absolution, because my thought has changed in the last 4 months of what I understand of spirit. The other side is bigger than what it was prior. So I cannot limit and allow myself to feel stuck or complacent with a ideology. Otherwise, soul's progression on the higher side or on the spirit side, vibrational side, is not happening. You have to recognize that from your perspective, it's also becoming limited. So if your thought is limiting or fixated or in a parameter, our spiritualism is such a beautiful stepping stone, a springboard to say, there's infinite potential, there's infinite thought, there's infinite possibilities there. Spirit itself is infinite. The divine itself is infinite. The source itself is the source. It will never run out of those things. That means there will always be something more than whatever is in our awareness. So the movement will continue to choose. So why are your hardships or limitations that? Why is my hardship or limitation that? Why is it not, let me take a detour, this is not going anywhere anyways. Then you get to investigate that thought, that channel that weaves through potential and possibilities. Now let's talk about the word blame. How many of us are good at blaming something at something to get away from whatever is to be discovered? I have moved on from that to a good extent. I don't want to say 100%. It cannot be 100%. But I'm moving in that thought, because I'm also aware this blame is really the one that has held me back for many times in my experiences. I don't have to do that. It is just an experience that sits wherever it is. I was in those years, I was struggling to meet my spirit guides, and I would not meet them. So I would blame it. I had a full belly, my day was hard, I didn't sleep right, I was not sitting right, my eyes were not closed properly. I would blame it on everything just to move that energy and shift. And I would do that, sitting in a car, like it didn't happen, why is not, they are not there and they're not moving, etc. So I would give responsibility to something so that I can walk away from it feeling good about it. And that's all blame does. It really doesn't do anything. It creates a layer that really does not have to exist. So, I still do not know who my spirit guides are. It's officially on record and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. But my trust is also in the teachings of my mentors and my teachers that I've said, you can work direct. You really don't have to create codependency with your guide system. Anybody that has that is beautiful. Let them enjoy it. Doesn't make them right, doesn't make you right, but if you work direct and you go through the source for your communication and information, there's nothing wrong in it. So this was year number 7 in my development. I was still wanting to look for my guides. And still to this day, when I'm sitting in my quiet, contemplative time, I'm in the source energy in some way, shape, or form. I'm really not talking to anybody other than the isness in some aspect itself. Does it make me any better than you? Not really. It's just the way it has worked for me in my dynamic DNA structure. So, are you willing to take a detour today, tomorrow? And if you are afraid or you have a knee-jerk feeling when you think you're like, oh God, another detour, enjoy it. Say it with a smile like, say, so what? It's going to give me an experience that I will probably form something out of it. Why not? I've had my own set of challenges. They've long gone. Here I am, enjoying every aspect of immersing in it and saying this, if they were not happening, probably I was not here. I was stuck in my rhythm of human life. This is human, but this is slightly different. We all have those things. Now another part of this detour is it always perpetuates healing. We do not know sometimes why or what that undertone of the healing is. It is allowing us to step into our own power within that detour or disconnect or what doesn't feel right to say, you know, I'm responsible for my healing. If I allow myself to have strength and courage, integrity to stand up for myself or work with myself, it will perpetuate healing. It will absolutely give you the healing. And then once again, since we are all connected in this universe, my healing is going to be contagious, is going to go somewhere and allow somebody else to have that experience for themselves. It's not an intrinsic, extrinsic motivator, it just is. You work on yourself, you fill the places where the energy is bleeding out, and then you restore yourself to the highest form and move on to the next detour. No matter how anointed and escalated you are in your spiritual evolution, the detours are checkpoints you have to cross to know your own strength and power. So, let me invite you to this thought. Please enjoy your random thoughts that go through your heads. As long as they are not detrimental to you or anybody else next to you, investigate them, enjoy them. They are a part of the spiritual journey, and they become that. I will say this in sense of closure of this inspired talk. Just in the last 2-3 weeks, I've had so many wonderful spirit communicators, family members, that have given the aspect of their life that they are growing on the other side. The continuity of life is remarkable in all forms of existence, incarnate or discarnate on the other side. And a part of me is like, well, if I was not sitting with an open mind and spirit, I may have missed a point. I may have been happy with $335 they brought home every week. But there's so much more that evolution is producing to have an experience to those that are sensitive and open and receptive to the other side. The spiritualism is in place of inquiry, but it proceeds with thought and feelings, and then it is investigated in scientific measurement. And I'm using the word scientific measurement because it can be quantified. It can be summarized of consistency. So it provides you that aha and saying, I'm feeling it is real after all, is there. So, I had a wonderful session about a grieving mother. And this was a beautiful yellow that we were seeing from the spirit side and me. And that is the song that reminds her of her son. I think it's Coldplay's song, if I remember her response to me. And it just hit home, a subtle thing. And then 40 seconds later, right outside my window, there was a yellow butterfly flying. Spirit is always infusing us with inspiration. We have to sit with openness to receive it. It's life-changing. I have no doubt about it. Your detour is always healthy. It's not always not the negative thing. So please investigate your detours. There's so much joy in it. Thank you.